games socially, like my little brother, my friends, and like that's what to do. And then I stopped caring, and then I think season 4 happened, and like had like 5 of my accounts just shoot the GM1 because of the placements. Like
Yeah.
it said everyone at the MMR. I was like, okay, cool. And then I kept playing, hit top 500. I was like, okay, I'm happy. And then I'm playing other games, and then season 9 happened. A bunch of my friends came back, started playing, and I started playing again, hit top 100 again. And I was like, I got some questions though, like some things, just random things I don't really know how to ask, and just some things that may not even be answerable or stupid questions. But I was like, hey, why not?
Sure.
Try it.
Yeah, go for it. Let's do it.
I have a list that I'm just gonna send to you. I have some context that I can add to. Let me select all of it really fast. My bad.
Yeah, that's it.
Copy. So I guess the first one we can start out with, like, it's a really specific one. It's the Winston melee zap versus melee. Actually, yeah,
Yeah.
because back
on
in
the
Overwatch
landing
1,
damage, right?
yeah, not just landing damage. Because back in Overwatch 1,
I see,
armor, more. But now with the Winston Overwatch 2 change, armor's negatable for Winston, and so when you're zapping a high HP target, say like another tank, is it better to just zap melee to save ammo consistently? If it's a 1-on-1, obviously if you're fighting multiple people, you want to zap multiple people, but I don't know, because of the armor change, because you're facing a diva.
Yeah.
You just want to
Yeah.
keep
I know
holding zap.
Yeah. Let me look here. I'm trying to find the notes here on season 9. Okay, I think I found him here.
Season 9, what change did that happen? I season
yeah, so what ended up happening is his primary fire went from 60 to 75 damage per second, which was a 25% damage increase, right? And not everybody's health went up 25%, right?
What the armor change? You remember that a while back ago where Winston's primary fire no longer
right, it negated armor, right? But then there's another factor to consider as well, which is where his primary fire damage went up by 25%. His melee damage went up by 33%, because 30 to 40, right?
Yeah.
So let's cook some numbers here and give you a general recommendation. Prior to all this crap, generally primary fire and melee did approximately the same DPS. Difference was that primary fire had AoE, had better range, so it was more consistent to land, which is why you would do that, and why you used to, back in the day, weave in melees when you could to conserve ammo and burst damage and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
However, the burst damage side of things is significantly weaker, if not really relevant at all, simply because they changed it so that armor affects all forms of damage equally, whether they're burst or not. So it used to be that armor had like a flat damage reduction of, I want to say, 7, 8, or 9, right?
Yeah.
But now it's just a percentage reduction on anything, which means that burst damage is weaker versus armor than it used to be in Overwatch 1. So keeping that in mind, what I would recommend, and even though the melee damage went up, is I would weave in melees anytime you're 100% guaranteed to do damage on a non-armored target.
Okay.
That's what I would say. Yeah, so if you're 1v1ing a Sigma, a Zarya, Roadhog, I don't know why you would be, but if you're doing that, then there you go. If the target is armored, even if I would probably stick with just doing zaps until the armor is gone, then start to weave in melee. If you're doing it versus squishies, obviously still the risk of just missing the melee entirely, even though that might legitimately be like a good DPS habit. But if you can't guarantee it, it's a big problem.
Yeah. Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's no problem. Your melees are definitely going to be doing proportionately more damage than they were in previous patches, just because even though you zap more, your melee percentage increase is greater. But as soon as armor's in that equation, then it's probably safer to just zap.
Bet. All right. A second question. All right. So playing against Hog and Well and Sanctum, specifically, I'm thinking of this on roll queue on non-mobile / not mirroring Hog.
Hog, Well, and Sanctum.
Yeah. So like, I'll be playing my.
Let's pull up the maps. Go ahead.
All right. Sorry. Making sure. So I put my little brother, and I was like, I always tell him, if you're playing a Hog, either mirror Hog or play a mobile hero that can hop around so you can just stay away from him.
Mm-hmm.
But and sometimes you can maybe get a Sigma in there and bait the shield, but he wants to play, he's a Reinhardt main and he loves Reinhardt. I really don't know how to tell him besides to just avoid the well and then go, I think it's under Lighthouse or whatever it is, let's say on well, and just
check it out.
But like playing as a soul tank against Hog without mobility on well single cal.
Yeah. So what I would do is I would basically read the map here. You can roll out here. Oh no, they're on hog. Okay. So then you go, okay, is the backline pushable from here? You can meet them, like you said, through here. It's not the end of the world meeting a hog's front line in here if you have any sort of damage. The other option as well, which you could probably guess, is you can go, okay, they're over here. I'm going to rotate across to the opposite side. Yeah. The thing is meeting hog toe-to-toe as Reinhardt might be frustrating, but with your shield and equal support, you will win that trade as long as it's not anywhere near the wall.
Okay.
That's the not fun solution, but that's the accurate.
It really
solution.
is just stay away because I really feel like hog on well with hook, it just is simply a threat.
Right.
So
basically what it is if he hits the hook on you, by the way, check it out. I'm 2 for 2, both Ilios well and the Fall Sanctum. That's what confidence does right there. Look at that.
That dude, my little brother was watching this and he said to the Ryan blessing.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, the same thing kind of thing here, where like you can meet a hog to toe if you have equal support and force them to play this side. So obviously, then here the risk is that like okay, you can hold the space, but you're at risk of getting hooked. That's just your poison, right? Like if you're playing Ryan, you basically guarantee generally that your team will control this high ground in these off angles here. The hog will always have the threat of getting the one shot, but it means that his team is stuck in the corner over here, if that makes sense. So once you're here, you could wait for opportunities either to push backline here, or then, you could just do this number here and then like actually anchor on point this way.
Okay.
It's still like, it's a threat. It's a threat, but again, like, it's like hog has to have that threat of the one shot because he just automatically loses the space anyway. So that's like the only advantage he has.
Okay, so I'm writing some of this down. My bad. God.
I mean, you could also just show him this section of the video too.
Yeah, he's weird.
Hopefully nothing like you. I got you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. All right. So next one. So this one's a kind of a big topic, and it's kind of hard to do. And you've done a lot about this. I've been watching, the podcast videos and all this. Counters, right? So, two things I want to talk about. So, one, have you played any open queue or community or anything with open queue this season?
I've done several, not anything this season, but I have coached open queue several times.
Okay, I've absolutely hated open queue up until this season because goats.
Yeah.
But this season, absolutely changed it with the DPS passive where goats come up. On roll queue, my little brother's been getting frustrated because I love you, Trent, but sometimes Reinhardt just cannot work. It's just unwinnable games. I love you, best Reinhardt in console, and all that. But then when we swapped to open queue with him, and then he can just it feels like so much more is opened up because of counters aren't being as effective. With counters, obviously you've talked about soft versus hard and the amount. I saw that one video where he kind of labeled the numbers. I love that video, by the way. It was awesome. But I guess the question I asked is how. Sorry, I'm gonna try to figure out how to phrase this.
No worries.
What's your opinion on playing? Because I always tell my little brother, hey, just keep a good mental and have fun, but you can't win every game. But if he wants to win, he's frustrated, and but he also wants to not swap. I know this is a kind of a conundrum. I know what you're saying. I mean, I think the goal just has to be okay, if you want to win, then you need to find out what adjustments do I need to be making versus into the heroes that I'm playing, and focusing on that will make you better because it forces you to learn the matchups better. Which is like we always talk about learning what we need to focus on the process, right? But what is the goal of the process? The goal of the process is to do better and win more, right? So the way that you can do it is be one of the skills you can work out with Ryan is that we're dealing with okay, they're playing Malga, they're playing Reaper, or they're playing Roadhog, or they're playing Bastion, or they're playing something that I don't like playing into. Your brother would need to focus on, okay, how can I outplay this character? How do I provide value to my team while still, maybe not popping off and killing a bunch of people, but I'm just not dying myself, or I'm contributing pressure and so on. And developing not only that skill for that game so that I can win this game, but practicing that is a really good long-term skill whenever you're one-tricking a character. So your brother would need to learn how to play versus the characters that he doesn't like playing into. Fair. Yeah,
and he will win more games, and he will also understand, he'll improve himself as a Reinhardt along the way.
Okay.
Sounds like an obvious answer, but it's true.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. He asked Max. He asked about counters, and I was talking about it. I'm like, you can kind of go to open queue and negate counters a little bit because
yeah. Open queue just spreads the counters thinner because you're likely to be playing also with a Roadhog, right? Or a Zarya or a D.Va or a Malga. So like there's just more people for your counters to focus on besides just you, because the anti-Rhine counters are the anti-tank counters. And when you're playing in open queue, a lot of the time you're playing with other tanks. So that's hard for them to only focus on you and not also worry about your teammates that are also tanks. So that makes sense.
Okay, my bad.
All right. Did you hear what I said about the open queue with there's just more tanks to focus on?
I did not. I apologize. Can you
no worries. Part of the reason why Ryan will feel better in open queue is just because there's more tanks to focus on. So the things that Ryan focuses on are anti-tanks. So if you deal with Roadhog, Malga, Bastion, and open queue, you can't really only focus the Ryan because then you'll have a Roadhog on your team or a Zarya on your team or a Bastion on your team. And so that's probably why they're feeling better.
Okay. Appreciate it. All right. This next one's kind of a really a weird question, but hey, we're gonna go for it. So, I grew up playing FPSs my whole life, and I never really played sports. Then I got my Overwatch buddy's like, "Hey, you should get really into NBA 2K. You would really like it." And I was like, "Okay, bet." So then I got really into 2K. It's a fun game. Love basketball now. One thing that I was doing, I was playing against my buddy, and like in 2K level, like I guess we had to equate it. My buddy is a grandmaster, and I'm like a low master. And we were doing a 1v1, and he went left against me every single time. I never noticed because in my head, I was always trying to guard the 50-50 because he's the option of going left and right.
Right.
And this is more of a mentality thing. But like, I don't know if you have maybe history in MMA or whatever, but like whenever there's a 50-50 choice, I feel like I struggle and I like don't always pick. It's a coin flip, it feels like, versus trying to figure out the actual right answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, here's what happens when somebody like keeps leaning the same side to you over and over again. You're like, whoa, that's cheating. You're like, I don't want to also cheat and like overemphasize that one side at the expense of my other side. The problem that you have to understand is that they are also making themselves vulnerable by going to that same side over and over again. Like, let's say your buddy's on 2K and he's going left side, left side, left side, left side. How good do you think he is at going right side?
He can go both. Like he can do right. That's the point. He was doing it to mess with me, and then I was like, "Oh shit!"
Right.
I didn't even realize.
Right. Yeah. So what you need to not worry about is the understanding, like, oh no, there's a 50-50 and I freeze up. You just need to get your game where your 50-50 is good enough to stop him either side he goes.
Okay.
Right. If I could beat you on Widowmaker and I could beat you on Tracer, you shouldn't worry about, oh no, what if he goes Widow? What if he goes Tracer? Like, oh no, he could be. You just need to get better at both. Like, you just need to get better at both. Like, at that point, it's just a general broad skill issue. It's like if you want to go the MMA route, right? If I could beat you with a jab and I could beat you with a cross, you shouldn't sit there and think about the psychology and the ramifications about like, oh no, I'm weaker to one. No, just get better at both. Like, get better at both. And if I could just use his jab and take you out, that's not necessarily a problem with only your jab defense. That might also be a problem with your cross. He's just better than you. He's just better than you.
Yeah. I think I misworded the question. He is just better than me. One, if you ever watch this video, you'll laugh at this.
Right.
But like at the time, like because like I didn't even like it just messed with me. Like I don't really care about him going left or right. It wasn't like a cheese thing. I don't know if it was just like. Sure. We're both guarding each other, and he just kept going left to see if I would ever notice. Because like if one person's saying, and keeps doing the same thing over and over again, then you should just be able to counter it. Like, you see it happen. But I never picked it up because my mind was stuck in the 50-50. Because he could always just go right at any time. Like,
well, basically what it is your pattern recognition is probably weaker because you were so tuned into something else. And the reason that you were so tuned into something else is probably because you're a little bit above your pay grade. Let me give you another analogy here. If I were to like, if you were fighting like, I don't know, Mike Tyson, 20 years ago, right? I don't think you'd be really thinking about like if Mike Tyson only used jabs on you, I don't think you would be paying that much attention. I think you'd be too busy thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to die, right? Like, so like when you're playing versus somebody like that much better than you, yeah. If it was somebody of equal skill and you didn't notice that, then yeah, maybe that's a skill that you'd want to keep an eye on, like just general pattern recognition, probably, right? But when you're playing somebody that's significantly better than you, you probably have your brain so busy on just basic survival skills or just trying to like, okay, make sure I'm not crossing my feet or like make sure that I'm like, I got my eyes on the hips or my eyes on the ball. That it's not the end of the world if you're missing up on like pattern recognition because you're focusing on something else.
All right, I appreciate it. That's a really good answer. Let's see next one. Okay, so this is a two-part question. So, I guess we can set this on the map to give an example. So, like
Sure.
Lijiang Gardens. Let's see, go 3 for 3.
I'm not feeling near as confident with this one.
All right. So, let's say that like you roll out Lijiang Gardens, your team's running some kind of rush brawl, and you TP point, you're sitting there, and then they run with some kind of mobile dive, and they're doing this poke, and
yeah, see what I tell you, man. I just.
I wasn't feeling it.
Wasn't feeling it. It didn't work. All right, so Lijiang Garden, you're going to point, and you are kind of being surrounded. You said,
yeah, you're being surrounded. So, my thought process was like, if you sit there on point forever, you don't really get an advantage, and you will get poked out and killed. But like, if someone on the enemy makes a mistake, obviously capitalize, take that out, and go. Mm-hmm. But I've been struggling to figure out. Like, obviously, this is just not a 1-man; it's just a 5-man issue. But in general, to how to actually like do that, because if the team plays well, it's hard to actually find the mistake on the 5 people surrounding you, then actually get your team to roll on them.
Yeah,
and I guess really fast. Sorry, the second part question: have you ever remembered the video or watched the video from A10 with the Korean play style?
Was it? I don't know, but was it referring to the turn?
The turn.
Okay, what was his description? Just stick with that.
The idea that is like, say that if someone was this would kind of very very
I guess.
Say someone is flanking and like in one side, you would just get your 5 resources and put them to wherever the closest other set of resources are, and because you have more, you win. So the tracer's on the left, which is 1-5 to the other 4 people in front of us, and then you would win because you have more resources and the person's out of the thing.
Sure.
But I don't know. It's been really hard to figure out how to get out and say, because they say it's a tracer, far echo, whatever, and then they're on in the back line. You're running brawl, you sim Ryan, whatever.
Yeah. What I would do, okay, so let's actually talk about like why this feels so hard. So this is like one of those 6v6 things, right? Where like back in the day when you had 2 tanks, you could control space like and just like in a vacuum a lot easier, because even if somebody had an off-angle advantage on you, you had enough sustain and had enough tankiness to be able to live without map control advantage. So in other words, when you're sitting on a point, you could have a Rhine shield here and a Diva matrix back here, right? And so that you could kind of turtle for longer, even if they had another tank. The other tank wasn't as good at doing damage as it wasn't mitigating damage. So you could sit on a point. But now with the removal of a tank, sitting in one spot for forever is really impossible, almost impossible. Like at some point, you have to make a play. And I want to link a video to you that's going to explain this concept a little bit deeper. But this is a really, really important concept. It's called, I call it, coincidentally, the jab.
Yeah, I think you talked about this before.
Yeah. So check this one out. I'll give you the brief TLDR. The TLDR is that you're saying that you're looking for opportunities where people make mistakes to push them. That's a mistake. You need to do not look for mistakes. You need to push regardless of mistakes. Okay. And when you're pushing, you're not pushing a hard commit. You're pushing to force a reaction, restabilize, do it again. So let me put you on, I don't know, Reinhardt here, okay? There is an Ana over here or a soldier over here, okay? What you would do is you could go by yourself and go, okay, we're on point. They're starting to take angles on us. We're starting to take some pressure. I'm going to pin at this Ana right here. And I'm not even necessarily going to secure the kill. I might even cancel my pin and just kind of sit here and hold shield. What is the enemy team's response going to be?
They had to stabilize for their Ana. They have
to stabilize so that you're gonna get focused down. So you're gonna get focused down. Okay, you're gonna sit here and you're gonna hold shield. You're gonna hold shield. You're gonna hold shield. And you're gonna hold shield. And you're gonna get your pin back, and you're gonna go back. Right? Yeah. You're gonna go right back. And what you've done is you've taken the angle control that the enemy team had on you and moved it away from the point of pressure to somewhere over here, and then reset.
You get turtle. Okay, yeah, I like this. Thank you.
And there's different ways to jab, though. One of the ways, like let's say you were running like a May, like a May Symmetra. You could do something like this: TP all the way over there, on top of the soldier or just the tracer. Like let's say we just TP on tracer, shoot at her, blam, 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 then just teleport right back again. All you're doing is like think about like the jab in the mixed martial arts concept, where it's right. It's not really done to like throw a knockout punch or like it's just meant to create a little bit of space. Put them on. Give yourself a little bit of a time. Buy yourself a little bit of a breathing room, essentially. And that's all you're doing with the jab. Is you're not waiting for a mistake. You're punching out. A little pressure here. Hey, let's put our Lucio BAP. Go. Put a little bit of pressure on this tracer. Maybe they're running farmer. Like 3, 2, 1, speed or soldier out for a peek here, maybe a helix, and then go back into cover, right? So you're just looking for slight windows of time where you push out with resources and then restabilize and do it again. And by doing that is you just get, again, you're giving yourself breathing room. You're fighting the anaconda from squeezing you to death, essentially. Because if you stand perfectly still, you will get squeezed out eventually. Like, it's inevitable.
Yeah.
So you just need to be able to slowly fight back. And then eventually you might buy yourself breathing room to be actually secure kill. Like, let's say that they do make a mistake and waste nade and waste sleep. Then you can go from, okay, I'm throwing jab, so I'm throwing the cross at that point.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Right.
It does make sense. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
All right. Let's see. This next one was from, like, I don't really like this question because it has a basic answer, but it's from, I guess, my little brother night. But, like, I always came into multiplayer games like thinking like it's a PvE game. Like, my teammates are robots and I am trying to beat the Elden Ring boss type thing. Because I don't really care what happens. Like, like if they mess up, they throw the game. Like, if I blame them, nothing. Like, I can never improve. Like, nothing like can get out of it. Versus, like, if I go into like a PvE game and oh crap, my bot randomly ran right. It's still ultimately up to you. But like at the end of the day, sometimes I feel like my skill level will not be enough to find. Like, I'll see an answer to a situation. Like, say that we're getting rolled, and I'm like, man, if I were to go diva right now and die just high ground Dorada, we'd win. But I have, I don't know, a Lucio who's not going with me about something, and like so the answer to my head was I need to go diva, but I can't do that because I feel like I don't have enough resources as a team. Versus trying to it's a dumb question. I don't really like this one. But, like, trying to find another answer, I guess. Because sometimes like, the obvious ones, like, oh, dive, widow on high ground, blah blah blah, but not working. What do I do now?
Yeah. So it's just finding a different solution besides the one that you've already known, and sometimes that can be even harder than finding a solution of ones that you don't already know. Like, a good example would be like, how do you? Let's put it this way. Like, let's say you're talking with like your personal trainer, right? And you're talking with some teenage dude that has a lot of free time on his hands, and he wants to know how to build muscle. Well, that's pretty easy, right? Anybody could help somebody out like that. Just go to the gym, eat protein, whatever, okay, right? But then all of a sudden, now you're working with a middle-aged dude who's working a finance job, 60 hours a week, has a family, and wants to get into shape. That's a lot harder problem, right? And so you have to kind of find a solution to that problem that fits the situation better. And that's basically what you have sometimes when you have, like, let's say there's a Dorado second point and you want to clear high ground. Oh, I could just go diva and do that. Yeah, I could just go Winston and do that. Yeah, but you want to play Reinhardt. How would a Reinhardt do that? Can a Reinhardt do that? How would a Reinhardt have a different solution to the problem? So what ends up happening is it's the reason why that's important to do is because if you always go for like the easy solution, you might not always find the best solution.
Okay.
For example, one of the big things that London Spitfire, not revolutionized, but put a lot of priority on in their Watchpoint Gibraltar attack was most people on Watchpoint Gibraltar's second point are like, yo, we need to clear high ground, right? London says, no, we don't. We just need to push cart. And that's all they did. And they pushed cart with Reinhardt, and then they pushed cart with May, and then they pushed cart with Reinhardt. And what they did is they actually changed the way that the map was kind of looked because they came up with a potentially better solution for at least them, if not other people as well. And that's the case with a lot of things, is you force yourself to actually like revolutionize and come up with solutions. Not only is that important if you want a one trick, right? Because I know that's kind of like a topic that's floating around in our heads. But even if you don't want a one trick, even if you're like, oh, I can play all the tanks, I really can swap to whatever tank. Well, sometimes even then, it's still good to force yourself into a bad situation to force yourself to solve it. Because like, let's say,
grow on it.
Right. Think about like the Ilios Well question, right? Like we could just go Sigma, right? Yeah. But maybe Reinhardt is unironically better there if you figure out how to approach that matchup. Because it is a close range map, right? It is a close range map. And maybe if you just
pass the well and get into that little choke point.
Yeah. Maybe Reinhardt is better than Sigma there. It's just a little bit harder to figure out initially, right? It has maybe Reinhardt's have better skill ceiling or value ceiling if you just get past the initial thing. It's the same kind of thing when like people are always asking me, like, think about it like from a bronze player standpoint. How do you beat Reinhardt? Bronze players can be like, oh, I'm gonna go Bastion. But what if that bronze player took the time to like learn and figure the situation out on Tracer? Depending on the map, they might have an easier time playing around Reinhardt on a Tracer once they understood the idea of taking flanks around a shield. You know what I'm saying? So the obvious answer is it's not just good for your brain. It's not just good for one tricking. It's also a really good way to actually find out sometimes better solutions because you force yourself to figure out the problem from a different standpoint besides just what is the easiest answer. And swapping is usually the easiest answer, if not the most effective.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you. Let's see. Losing flow. All right. So, this one's been tough. Like, there'll be games where, like, you're in the zone, you're winning, and then just, mistake happens, blah, 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 and then you just cannot recover. And I don't know. I guess it's just more of a broad term, more of a psychological
Yeah. I mean, flow is definitely like one of those timey-wimey, like hard to put your finger on it concepts, but there's definitely some concrete solutions I can give you. So the first thing is like, how do you get flow in the first place? Well, you got to be focused in the moment on what you're doing, right? And you also have to be reasonably challenged. You can't be bored. You can't be overwhelmed. So when you lose flow, give me an example of something losing flow.
Usually it's just for me whenever I don't know, I whiff a grab and then all of a sudden I'm out of state now because I made the mistake and now my mind's on I made a mistake versus what's in front of me.
So that one, it's not so much the challenge that's pushing you out of flow, but it's your thought processes where it's not in the moment. It's back what happened 45 seconds ago, right? So your job there is to practice reassigning your focus onto what's happening right now. And ironically, I find the best way to do that is to practice thinking what's going to happen 10 seconds from now. So in other words, when that happens, it's not so much like, let it go, forget about it. It's okay, whatever. You're going to think about it. We don't care. Instead, I want to make sure that you're thinking about what's happening 10 seconds from now. Because what inevitably happens is you will start thinking about what happened 10 seconds ago. You'll totally ignore all the signs of like what's happening on your screen right now. And you will snowball negatively and start playing worse and worse and worse and worse. So when that happens, practice going, okay, that's it. I lost the fight. I trolled. I'm an idiot. I should slap myself inside the face, whatever. What do I need to be doing right now? How do I win this next fight? How do I win this fight right now? What do I need? Where do I need to be? And if you do that faster, you will get better at practicing that mindset. You will do better at getting yourself back into flow. Also keep in mind that right, exactly. Keep in mind as well that flow is like very much a spectrum. Like flow state, you're probably in flow state to a certain percentage all the time when you're playing Overwatch.
Yeah.
But it's like there's no like, oh, you're in and you're out. It's so get more back into it. Ease yourself back into it.
Bet. Okay. All right. So movement. I grew up as a Halo kid, playing Halo, and that was like Halo movement is weird because in Overwatch, jumping is kind of bad in those niche situations like Reaper Roll, where jumping is good. But like in general, you don't want to jump. And in Halo, you love jumping because the primary weapon for most of Halo's competitive
BR, right?
was a BR, yeah. So if you know the timing of their shot, if you were to jump and make them miss their shot, that's an advantage.
Yeah.
And so like in Overwatch, though, I have just such a bad habit of fucking jumping, man. I like, but also like with hitbox manipulation, I go back for being console and PC, but with my PC play, I play hybrid. I play one-hand controller, one-hand mouse.
Yeah.
And AD strafing is very difficult because it's just slower, and hitbox manipulation on characters like Tracer and things like that also feel hard. But certain characters, like randomly, like Alari, feels just like a BR. I don't know how to put it. That just might be a preference thing, but like I love playing Alari. But like I don't know, with hitbox manipulation and with a controller, I guess is like, how do you recommend doing? Because I feel like AD strafing, which like, when I'm playing, it's like a GM Tracer on PC, I'm just losing because I just can't keep up.
So you are strafing with a controller.
Yes.
So what character are we talking about again?
Let's do Tracer for now.
Tracer for now. Yeah. So what I would do with Tracer is obviously like one of the big advantages of the strafing is the rapid, left and right, left and right, left and right, left and right.
Yeah.
I don't know how feasible that's going to be with a controller.
It's not really.
So what I generally recommend is going for more smooth strafes that still have some unpredictable patterns, because one of the advantages of being more smooth with your strafes, obviously you are easier to hit, right? But one of the advantages they teach you, especially with certain characters, is that it allows you, it throws off your aim less as well.
Yes.
So, especially with point and shoot characters like Cassidy, Zenyatta, and so on, it's actually not great to be rapidly strafing, because even if you're doing this, like, because it's really important for you to hit your shots, it doesn't really it can really throw off your aim. So what I recommend here is, obviously for a character like Tracer, it could be a little trickier. I would say just focus on being unpredictable with your patterns. So make your patterns longer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm on
but,
yeah.
So just be okay with you not having like a very, top tier like ADHD strafe pattern, but instead just allow that to smooth out your tracking a little bit. Yeah. And what that might mean is that you'll have to put certain priorities. Oh my goodness. You have to put certain priorities on things like your blink timing and so on. It's definitely a little bit of a handicap, but I think you can work around it. Might have to, what it'll do is it'll allow you to have slightly better aim and your enemy to have slightly better aim. That might not be super good for a character like Tracer, but that actually might be okay for certain hit scan characters.
It feels great for Illari. Like I don't know.
Yeah, 100%. Because think about it with Illari, it's like, would you rather you hit your shot or the enemy hit their shot, right? Like, it's generally
my shot.
More often than not, right. More often than not, it's more important for you to hit your shot than it is for them to hit their shot most of the time. So that's where the smooth strafing can be a big advantage. I just now noticed that these little people. Am I stupid?
Oh. What's up?
Look, do you see these little people walking? How have I never noticed that?
Oh shoot, I never noticed that either. I was scrolling a little bit, but yeah.
Okay, well there you go. Interesting.
I
know, right? Seriously.
Yeah, his controller movement, like with because I play on controller on console, obviously, but when I go on PC, I do hybrid, and usually I think typically controller is a disadvantage with movement.
Yeah, 100%.
But I was really comfortable with.
Except for one thing. If you is the slow motion movement. That is actually a super, super funny thing that you can abuse. You can do that with controller, right? Like the slow, like that. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, because a button press, you're able to get one input with it's either you're forward or not forward. You can do WS and kind of get a mix, but you can't adjust it. Like you can ramp up the amount on the controller. So that's kind of it can be an advantage. But like a character like Lucio, I feel like it's so hard to play Lucio because you can't have two movements at once. I want to go forward and right at the same time, but you can't really on stick. I don't know if there's really a solution to that. It's just kind of like not really good for that character.
Yeah, I honestly don't know if I would have a solution to that. That we would have to ask. What you could do is you could just look up like console Lucio settings or something like that. And I bet there might be somebody, like surely there's somebody out there that's like a top 500 console player that has some sort of input on that.
Yeah. All right. First point, New Junk City.
Got it.
I just hate this point with a passion. I don't really mind the others after this on this point, and I don't mind Servas at all.
On what character or just all of them?
All of them. Like, I feel like going default is garbage. Like, I hate default, but I feel like the left flank is pretty good. And I think right flank is just too far away unless you're doing like some things, but I don't know. It feels too split on the flanks. It's hard to group because the rotation, like say if you get pressure on the flank and your team is main, it feels like it's hard to group. I don't know. I just don't like this point. I don't know how to play it.
A lot of it's just going to depend on the character and just getting more comfortable with it. Like, one of the things here is I always like to draw to light that uses verticality when necessary, like when you have characters that can use that verticality. The other one as well is that when you are on this flank, instead of thinking of yourself as like isolated and taking a long time, go back to your team. Think about yourself like, okay, I am basically on an island here. And remember that you have this many health back here as well. This is your friend. Beyond that, I mean, one thing I guess to be aware of is that on rollout, you can roll out pretty quickly to right flank. Let me show you what you could do. So instead of going through this way, if you see that you're on this side, right, you can start your rollout on this side. And you will get there late, but you'll already be there. On some characters, this might be okay. The other option as well is that just keep in mind here that if you immediately break from here and go this way, you'll also get here faster as well. There's really no good solution for this. I'm trying to think if there's anything else here. No, not really. Yeah, I would need more specific character stuff, like what characters you're playing.
Zarya? Like, Zarya's probably my main character, I guess.
Yeah. Zarya's just going to be rolling out main and using this for cover. That's all there really is to it. And depending on the brawl tank, like if you get, let's say you get stuffed to Zarya by like a Ryan Lucio comp, then rotating out this way, and just having your team bleed out this direction towards this side of the point to create distance.
Okay.
There's no really easy solution here, sadly.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just a point I don't really like. I'm trying to think of a question, I guess, to ask to make it better. Because I guess I feel like what I struggle with on this point is the mid fight and then also the retake. You know, I'm still adjusting the flashpoint retake because I'm just not used to it still. But
yep.
The mid fight as Zarya, I feel like my issue is we do brawl. I'm comfortable with the brawl because Zarya lives and thrives. But the off angle's on point when people are playing like around the dome thing in the middle and an off angle. I feel like I don't know how to, like, say if I were to not be Zarya in this situation, but I had a Zarya who's going main and I was Tracer. I don't really know how to take the duel correctly, I guess is the ask. I don't.
So you would just take the flanks and duel the flanks. Like I think one of the things is like you try to have as few people in point as possible. And if you're a tank retaking, try to at least put a little bit of pressure on those flanks, a little bit of pressure on those high grounds before going to point, and just pray that your team doesn't follow with you. Like controlling the Colosseum around this is like that's how you win the fight on point. Right. Okay. So if you're a tracer, and if you're retaking here, like it's really important that you get on these off angles, on these flanks, and start pulling attention towards you, so that your tank can walk through the choke, and that your team tank can walk to point without dying instantaneously. One thing you can do is you could come from underneath as a flanker and like try to hide from the off angles and pressure point this way. But generally, I like to try and harass from this periphery here.
All right. Point just seems like a hellhole.
Yeah, it is a little bit.
All right, let's see. I appreciate it. All right, this one's kind of a vague question, but like I also saw you have a video I have yet to watch posted very about this. But when games are generating, your team's generating stats, just so much better stats, but it's still close. What when you're coaching, you see these games? Is there like an overland issue or like a
So the first obvious answer is that you're better than your teammates. I mean, that's the thing. Like we know that's a thing. Like that's why matchmaking can be a little bit tricky. Is that like you might be the player that has 50 higher SR than your teammates. That's normal, right?
Oh,
that's so
really fast. Rephrase the question. I think I might have misspoken.
Yeah, please.
I'm bad at this. So it's like those games where your whole team has better stats. Like your team has 50, 40, 30 elims, and the enemy team has 10, 12, but the game is still close.
Oh, great question. Well, let's actually talk about this. So one of these examples would be, let's actually use the game mode that we're on right now. Let's play Flashpoint.
Yes.
So Flashpoint, they win first fight. All right, but it's close. It's a big, messy brawl first fight. Both teams are trading back and forth, really, really ugly, and then we end up winning. Nice job. But we also lose, like, let's say we lost like 3 members of our team. We barely win, right? So actually our stats are pretty close. We have slightly better stats, even though we won first fight. Okay, so we win first fight, and we're running fast heroes. They're running slow heroes, all right? You got me?
Yeah.
So that means that we're at like 70%, 75% when they come back, and then that we have another long, grueling fight. But actually, we just get smoked. No, the second fight we just get totally destroyed. Their Widow gets a headshot in the flank, and then we just all die instantly. And everybody tags us, and they all get 5 elims for us, and we just all die. You got me? Yeah. So now we actually are at but a pretty big disadvantage in stats, even though we've both won a fight here, right? Because ours was long and grueling, and theirs was very quick and painful. We come back, and we come back really quick because we're Lucio speed comp. And we come back and we have another long, grueling fight, but we barely edge it out. Nice job, guys. Congratulations. And we cap the point. Nice job. We cap the point. This is the crazy thing. With what I just described, which team would have a stat advantage? We've won 2 fights. Right. We've won 2 fights. They've won 1, but they won 1 completely dominated. And we won 2 very long, grueling trades, all sorts of stuff. So actually, the stats will look really close. The stats will look really, really, really close because even though we're winning more fights, whatever. So then we go to another fight. Like let's say this fight, they actually dominate us. Again, 5-0, right? Again, that is absolutely something that can happen. Let's say the Widow gets another pick. Another fight happens. We come back faster. So what ends up happening is when you're like looking at stats that are like very close, even in games that we're winning or whatever, what will end up being the case is that either we're a composition where we all share kills, right? If I'm playing a Tracer, there might be a chance that I have fairly high eliminations just because I have pepper weapons and I can tickle and finish off kills all the time. But if I'm playing a Widowmaker, there's a chance that my eliminations are pretty low. You know what I'm saying? Right? Yeah. The other thing is as well is that because we're running a Lucio comp in Flashpoint, we have the opportunity to take more fights. So if we lose a fight, we could try again. We lose a fight, we could try again. And then that third time, we actually manage to win it, and then we actually win the point because we only have to win one more fight. So you could almost think of it this way. Lucio comps have to win 2 fights to win a point. Non-Lucio comps have to win 3 fights. So we could win fewer team fights and still win the point because we could smash our bodies up against the Flashpoint over and over and over again until it breaks. But because they don't have Lucio, they don't have speedy characters, they can't.
Okay.
Then there's also stuff like, maybe one of them staggers, right? Like one of them dies really late. So that gives us free 40% of the objective. Or, you remember the Lund Spitfire example I was giving you in Gibraltar?
Yes.
Really easy to lose, have terrible stats doing that because all you're doing is just pushing cart. You might not even win one. You might win one team fight per point, if even that, just because you're just dying and dying and dying. But cart keeps moving. So generally, whenever you see that happening, they just played the objective better or they didn't stagger as much. That's why, even though their stats are bad, they're winning.
Okay, that makes sense. Playing Tracer on non-wide maps, I guess like the example I would like to go to would be King's Row, defense if we can.
Sure.
King's Row defense, first point, I feel like I have an idea of how I want to play Tracer, but second and third, just no clue. First on defense, I like to control the high ground near statue and like the high ground like near where they want to come from, and then if they come in, drop on them and such, because I'm still playing off angle in that.
So like over here.
Yeah, I would play over there and maybe a little deeper into their spawn, like in their building, if I'm a little greedy. That's where typically I'm playing first point. It feels good. I like it. I don't know if because they come in, I drop on them. If not, I'm just kind of pestering the snipers.
And
buying time. But second point, I just don't know where to go for defense. Like it feels like obviously not Tracer's a good map, but like still.
So first thing I would do here is like let's talk about all like the standard fight locations, and I'll give you a few options for each one. Okay, first fight location is going to be on this choke here. First option here is peppering from here. Second option here is peppering from here. Third option is continuing this rotation from here. Fourth option is wrapping all the way around to here. Fifth option is, and this is viable versus like more pokey style comps especially, is just to live in their spawn.
There's so many health packs. Yeah.
Live them on the spawn just because you have immediate access to backline this way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, if they don't have much of a backline to assassinate, there's also a world where you could actually hold this off angle here and poke from here. And then even here isn't too shabby depending on the comp. Like let's say they're playing a dive comp, and you don't want to like stage at the backline, just want to shoot their DPS and tank. You can kind of hold this angle in here, right? That's also good as well. So what I would do is I would look at the comp, look at the situation, and decide how deep of an angle I want. Do I want more shallow angle? Because not really an assassinate. Let's more Lucio backline, right? Like what's the point? Let me just take a shallow angle here. More Stiper, like high ground pokey comp. Look for something over there, look for something over there, or look for the wraparound from there.
Okay.
Now, if the fight devolves around here, based with the information that we said here, where should you go?
It's still something high ground behind them. It's still like
this is still an option, right? For squishy your backlines, 100%. This as well. These 3 angles, if you want to go for backline. And the way to approach them would be probably going through these stairs.
Yeah.
Right? Or from wrapping around all the way from this flank, all the way around that way. All right? What about this angle here? Still an option, right?
It's still an option. They're running Brawl, maybe.
Still an option.
Yeah.
Coming in from this way, still an option. If they're running more like a divey style, like Winston's and Moyers and stuff, this is a fairly good angle here. Again, you're kind of like playing more like a Tracer 76, right? So you can kind of poke from this angle here, right? Makes sense?
Yeah.
So again, these more soft angles like here would be better for, and like here, better if they're running more like dive stuff. If they're running comps where you want to assassinate backline, angle, that way. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then as the fight devolves, like let's say it happens here on this choke here. Let's say they're on Moira, Lucio, whatever composition, and you're playing here. Where do you want to angle?
probably just above, maybe.
Yeah, this is really good. This is really good. If you can roll out, obviously from here, right? You could do all sorts of stuff from here. Really good. Yeah. All really good right here, right? All really good. All good angles right here, okay? What about one more pokey backline? And obviously, by the way, worst case scenario, this isn't too bad as well. Like, let's say your tank was here, or you could even go here, you know? Or you could even go here. This is also good as well. Okay, more pokey backline.
Backline? Probably living in the building at the mega. I don't know what that's called.
Like over here?
Yeah. That's where I feel like I'll be living.
Wrapping for around the flank there. Actually, high ground is still really good there because what you could do here, by the way, so you got a couple options. This. And then you could probably see where I'm going with this. Okay, dear.
Yeah.
You can wrap all the way around behind here. Yeah. Do this kind of number here. And this is really good too because then worst case scenario, if they push forward, you can do this here and then you can deepen and then you have options here. And then you could drop, you know, recall back to high ground, all sorts of stuff like that. Yeah, those are your options. And then like you said, you could poke from here. Okay, I want to go for backline. Right, there's your options. Now, third point. You asked about third point, correct?
Yes.
Third point. If you're holding close / like pokier stuff, this angle is okay here. This angle here is more for if you want to sneak up and backline, right? Because it is like you're not going to get any support from your team. But you can poke like here. This is a pretty good angle if you're playing like dive comps and just want to poke, mark their tracer, right? You get it, what I'm saying? And then if they're playing pokier backlines, you can do basically, you can still hold this angle here, but you just got to be sneakier and or try and be sneaky up here and or live in their backline, right? We talked about that before. If the fight location comes up to here, really your only option is harassing from here and or wrapping this way. That's your only option. If the fight location shifts to here, same thing. You need this corridor here, going this way. Your other option is you can poke tank from this off angle here, hiding from backline. If the fight location comes to here, pretty simple to either just poke tank from here and or your only really other option is to just wrap through this angle here and do this. That's pretty much it. Let me be very clear. Third point, not a good tracer point.
Yeah.
Not a good tracer point. So if you're struggling on second point, I think it's probably an understanding that you need to kind of improve at. If you're struggling on third point, that's normal, right? That's
normal. It's just not a good map.
It's just not a good point because you really only have like one flank per fight location, and you probably noticed that, right? And it's pretty predictable. So you'll notice even at the pro level, sometimes that people will even swap off a tracer here. So it's not the end of the world if you're struggling here.
All right, cool. Appreciate that. All right. Oh, yeah, another one I forgot to write down that I want to ask about. So I had a buddy who's been coming back, and I've been playing with him and helping him play. And he likes to play every character that's not Tracer, like Tracer. And it's been fun. We've been playing, having fun. And like he loves Sim, and he loves Echo, which I guess Echo like that. But like he also likes Soldier. And though he doesn't want to play Sombra or Tracer at the flanker, and at the same time he's been frustrated about not getting wins. And I'm like, my answer to him, I'm like, Biggie, you're mechanically good. Just play Sojourn because you just get more value. You can do if you play Sombra in the back line, you're invis, like that time you're invis, you're not really, you could be doing something, but you're not. As Sojourn at least is shooting the tank and getting uptime. I don't know if he should play do a different character or just play how he's playing and just make it work. But he So you're saying that your buddy likes playing flankers but doesn't like waiting. Yeah, doesn't like waiting, and he also likes playing sometimes like, how do I put this? He's like playing flanker characters, like the hard flanker characters like Sombra, Tracer, or like Echo. He likes Sim, Soldier kind of deal.
Yeah. I mean, the idea is that like basically the deeper the flank, generally the higher the downtime, because you're playing for like these super high bursts of value, like these assassination threats, and not for like long consistent pressure. So a Tracer, depending on the composition, might be going for deeper flanks, or she might just be holding an off angle and poking. I mean, we literally just talked about that, right? Like on that King's Row, right? Like sometimes it depends, you're more for uptime versus going for backline. So you're basically looking at characters that don't necessarily have to go for backline all the time. And yeah, those are definitely characters like Sojourn, like you said, Soldier definitely. Sombra sometimes, like let's say they're on Winston or Tracer, you could definitely go for assassinations, but if they're playing like Moira or Lucio, Brig Lucio, on a Lucio, on a Brig, whatever, you might just want to, do this. That's fine too. So your question was like, what characters? And I think the Sojourn recommendation is probably reasonable enough.
Yeah, because I feel like he wants to win. He doesn't mind doing other things. Like my little brother is more of a one trip, and he wants to win more. And I'm like, you're mechanically good. You like to play these characters, the long flank angles, and do that. But I feel like it's better for you to generate uptime if you want to win on a character like Soldier or Sojourn, where you just shoot, and you're always generating value versus having the downtime. And I don't know if I don't really decide. I don't know what the question is. I don't know if is that he should play characters more oriented towards flankers like Tracer Sombra, or try or go and with the downtime, or swap to a character that just generates more pressure for wins, I guess.
Yeah. I would say just do whatever feels more natural for him. But obviously he should still pay attention to some of the concepts, So I think for him, I would say it would probably be the easiest solution would be to just play characters that feel more natural with what he wants to do all the time. But at the same time, for you being the big brother here, you can kind of keep an eye on, even when he's playing Soldier or Sojourn. Like, let's say, for example, he is playing Sojourn, but he's permanently stacked with tank because he just wants to shoot the enemy tank all the time and never wants to ever take an angle. Then maybe that would be something to keep an eye on there. Even a character like Soldier, let's say he's going for a tactical visor, right? And he wants to go on the flank, right? If he's on the flank with tactical visor, he will need to wait a few seconds. He's going to need to wait for the fight to kind of break out. Wait, sneak. Okay, wait. Okay, I hear tank trains now. And that might be something that he needs to learn and practice. So even the characters that you're describing, he still needs to learn the value of downtime sometimes just to set up a bigger play. That being said, it's probably easier for him to pick characters like Symmetra, like Soldier, that aren't as concerned with deeper flanks, just so that he can maintain uptime without feeling like he's chomping at the bits.
Okay.
So I think your instincts are probably accurate here.
All right, appreciate it. All right. So this one, this is kind of funny because this one's an argument I had with a friend of mine, and I kind of just want to hear your take on the nuance of it. I don't really care about the specific argument; it's more the principle I speak because I want to say. So giving up space in certain situations can be both advantageous and give you resources and also lose you resources. Okay. And he was adamant on you can only lose resources by giving up space.
Okay. Give me your example on how you would gain resources through giving space.
So say you're on a brawl comp on whatever control point map, but then your teammate just got picked and they're about to run at you. If they were to run and stay on top of you, you die. But you can then back up, give up space, and then make them commit more resources, aka more time, to come to you, and then you, in a sense, gain more resource.
Right.
You stay alive longer.
I see what you're saying. I would say as long as you're giving space from an advantageous position to another advantageous position that's further away, that takes time for them to cross. Let me give you an example. Yes. So let's say that you're holding a choke right here. Okay, this is the choke that we're holding. Oh no, we got picked. Crap. If we stay here, we're inevitably going to make it easy for the enemy team to clean us up. So if I back up to, let's say, here and hold a choke here, this is another choke, another advantageous position, but it's further away. In that situation, we've turned a disadvantage into I wouldn't say an advantage, but a potential to maybe make the enemy team spend more resources than they have to try and secure the rest of the 4 kills. So I would say you're Grandpapa loves both of you equally. I think you're both right. If you were to give up a good spot to a bad spot, at that point you might as well just hold the good spot and die on that hill and then reset and go again, because you're dying on a good hill, there's a chance that you can turn the fight, right? If you just back up indiscriminately into the open, you're probably even easier to kill than just holding forward. But if you're giving space from good space to another good corner or a deeper choke, I think that becomes a situation where it's more reasonable.
I appreciate it.
But yeah, I mean, it's a good question in theory, definitely. I'm trying to think of what's a good example. Like King's Row, that choke on King's Row, right? The one that we were looking at with Tracer, second point, right? Let's say you were to get picked. I see this happen all the time. You would really, let me just pull this up 2 seconds. you would really need to decide, like, are we staying here or are we not? Because I see this happen a lot. Let's just go ball here so we get there faster. You are holding this choke here. Somebody gets picked from this window here. You have two choices. You sit here and die and maybe turn the fight because choke is still nasty choke for the enemy team, right? Or you would back up to where?
Next corner.
Next corner, right. And maybe even this corner, right? But you would need to but I see what happens is that people would like, oh no, we got picked, we need to back up, and they'll just be like here, you know? And this is worst case scenario. Because you give up space, but you don't actually like, you're not gaining an advantage by being here to here. Like this is a worse position that's more open. You've given the choke for free. So you would either like stay on the choke, die, or you would back up to the next advantageous position, wherever that may be. And then hold your 4v5 there. If the enemy team overextends to here, it's still a choke. There's a world where they might actually die, especially with like payload and somebody's on a card and so on. But yeah, that makes sense. So if you're going to give up space, TLDR is give up space from advantageous position to advantageous position, never from advantageous to open space.
Got it. Appreciate it. All right. And then I guess like it's a funny question, a little short on time. Just like your thoughts.
Yeah, of course. We can run a few minutes over.
All right. I'll talk to my friends about like how they feel about the game and like, you know, because I have a lot of friends at PC who don't like the game anymore, and we kind of came to, you know, for them at least, not for everyone, their conclusion is the game is too team oriented. The game is a double-edged sword. It's so the team oriented of the game is what makes it beautiful, but also what makes it fall apart. You can't solo carry. In this game compared to others. We were talking about a TDM game mode because in my head, a TDM game mode could open the eyes to be able to open up more solo carry. But the question is, how would you build it? Like, we had thoughts about like, you know, certain like control points, like for instance, to like I'm trying to think of one, Sanctum, like not Sanctum, Nepal. I don't know what's village or whatever. But the high ground's up in the middle versus like I don't know. Samoa, I don't know the new one, but the high ground's down low versus because like, the idea is the middle control points in Overwatch, so you want to control the objective, and there's no objectives to get kills, there's no space to be held. So every space is meaningless. So how do you make meaningful space and like and all that? So our thought process was, get a map where the meaningful space is at a disadvantage, like Samoa, where it's on the low ground. I can't remember which Samoa map it is, but one of them's on the low ground.
I mean, this is a fairly good example, right? Like controlling the point, there's no cover at all. Like so,
And so, but then it would give you ult charge. The idea would be so you could snowball.
Controlling the space gives you ult charge. Okay,
ult charge in a TDM game mode. I don't know. That was just a fun thought. I don't know how you think a TDM game mode could even work in Overwatch.
Yeah,
it shouldn't. But you know.
I was thinking about this the other day, actually. It's funny that you bring it up because I was joking with a buddy of mine, actually not one of my previous sessions, and we were talking about, like, you know, would you be able to 1v5 a bronze, team of 5 bronzes? And one of the things we realized is that, yes, potentially if it was TDM. But if it's not TDM, what ends up happening is that bronze players could just sit on the objective, and it's really hard for you to kill them fast enough before they get objective value. It's just kind of some of this question we had with the Flashpoint, like the worst stats, right? And like, you know, it could be really hard for you to push points. So what ends up happening is without objective pressure, it becomes really difficult to. Objective pressure is team play, is essentially what it is, because it tells you what space to control and like even makes dying valuable because it allows you to be like, okay, instead of focusing the objective, you had to kill me, right? And so if you were to do a TDM thing, I'm trying to think, the whole concept of like having like hot points, the way Halo does it is that what they do is they make space control a priority, because what they do is they reward you with vehicles and weapons, as you know.
Power weapons.
Right. So if you control this space here, you can snowball things, but if you what that does is that discourages people from playing their life and playing their life only, because you can't camp with, you know, an assault rifle, right? That's not exactly that useful, you know. So you need to actually put yourself out there and take risk and control space to be able to get an advantage. So what you need to do is you need to do something like what you were saying with the ult charge, where it was like you need to motivate people to move and control space. And you could have different hot points where like, okay, this is a hot point where people fight over this space because they all want to get ult charge. At that point, though, the problem is that once again kind of introduces a little bit of team play, which is both the best and worst. Like, the nice thing about TDM and strict TDM, like think Call of Duty Black Ops, right, is that you don't really need good teammates, because even a dead body, it takes attention. And that's all your teammates are. Like you could solo carry in Black Ops essentially because you could go like 40-1, right? And just your teammates just die off of cooldown. But what they're doing is they're just pulling the enemy's attention elsewhere while you kill them, right? But as soon as you start to incorporating an objective, like it becomes, you rely more on people not just immediately dying. And then, that could be a mixed bag.
Mixed bag. I feel that. That's a fun thought. I think I love Overwatch. I love objective game modes. I got into basketball because of it. No, I never.
Right. I do. I think the cool thing though is that like you said with the ult charge, there's a lot of creative ways that you can interpret objective based game mode. Right. It could be objective like capture a point, or it could be objective by gaining objective or gaining ult charge or gaining a new cool weapon or gaining power ups and stuff like that. There's a million ways that you could have objectives. I mean, you could even have objective based game mode based off of tweaking respawn so that you force fights to happen in a certain location. But yeah. Good question
about it. Yeah, I appreciate it. It was a fun thought. It was just like I don't know.
Okay. No other questions for you selfishly?
Trying to think. What else we got out there? I guess I have a personal question. I guess I can ask. So like back in the day, I was a kid, 12 years old, ever.
Me too.
Want to be a YouTuber, blah blah blah. like and I wanted to be a YouTuber, blah, blah. I got into gaming, and I as a kid, I wanted to go pro. I hit equivalent grandmaster in 5 different games. I was going hard.
That's impressive.
It is impressive, but I was always the not good enough kind of grandmaster, like the wash pro. So I never felt good. And then with Overwatch, I got into coaching for a bit, but then I kind of fell off due to my anxiety and just not feeling good enough because I'll be coaching people who peaked higher than me. I was 3,900 at the time, coaching 4s, and some of them, would just be like, "No, you're 3.9, blah blah, you're done." It kind of just hurt my ego. I don't know, it hurt my pride, whatever the word is, I guess. I went away from it, and I've been enjoying Overwatch again, and I don't really know where I want to go. I am not trying to be a YouTuber for my whole my life or anything like that. I don't make videos or anything like that. I'm in school for psychology, but I do like it for fun, with coaching for fun on the side. I do miss it. Is there some route I can go where I can just do it for fun?
Yeah, I mean, the way I did it, the way I started was through Overwatch University subreddit, and just offering. People will ask for VOD reviews freaking all the time, bro. There's people in my Discord. Let me show you. There's in my Discord. There's that VOD review. And give me 1 second. There's a Discord channel called VOD Reviews Community, and people are always dropping VODs in there. And so I did that. I did Overwatch University, and so what I would do is I would just go through there and choose what VODs that you were interested in, and be like, hey, I would enjoy coaching this, and just go for it. People that ego you due to rank are morons. I mean, you're probably familiar with my whole growth and climb as a coach, but I hit 4.1K, and the only reason I climbed to mid GM or whatever was because I wanted to. It did not help me coach. What got me better at coaching was practice and studying the game more. But getting to actual GM really actually didn't help me all that much. I know it's helped some people. It definitely helped me with tiny little details of Zen micro, but I'm honestly better at coaching other heroes at Zen than micro. That's the irony, because I've studied those heroes more, even though I'm terrible at it. One of my best characters I am at coaching, maybe my best, is Tracer, and she's probably one of my top 2 or 3 worst heroes in the game. So that's the case not just for me, that's the case for a lot, most coaches, is that their ability to coach is their ability to communicate and their ability to explain things and the ability to understand the character. So obviously you need to understand that. And then if you want to get more into doing that for fun, just reach out to people that are looking for help. There's plenty of people out there that want to improve their game. Just start practicing. And don't feel I have to be a really good coach for me to be able to offer my services. Especially if you're just doing it for fun, any sort of feedback is useful, I think. I think 99% of the time, people giving you feedback is helpful, even if it's not exactly something that I would agree with. Just having an outside perspective, making you think 100%. About things, is really important. So I would recommend that strongly. Just get into people that are whether it's in my community or the Overwatch University community or whatever, and just offer your services for free. Choose what VODs you want to go. I'm looking through my Discord right now. Plat 3 Brig, Diamond 3 Tracer, Plat 4 Genji, Lifeweaver Gold, Zarya, Masters Moira, Gold Soldier, Diamond Moira, Master Soldier, Plat Kiriko, and be like, oh, I want the low rank ones, or I want the high rank ones, or I want to focus on DPS or tank or whatever. And there's a GM Lucio one. Just choose what stands out to you and roll it.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course. And don't let the whole imposter syndrome, like you kind of spooked me there when you're like, oh, I've hit GM on like 5 different games, but I've always like the old washed guy. I'm like, how does that work? Like how did you hit GM in the first place? Where you just always like just accidentally like get in there? Like that sounds like a little bit of imposter syndrome. So like,
I definitely have that because like I don't know. I mean, I've always hit the top ranks, but I was never the best.
Right.
In the lobby or stuff. I always felt like I was just slightly never good enough for whatever reason.
Well, like obviously, like being GM at the game means that you're great at the game, but it doesn't mean that you're the best at the game. Not even close. Like we all know that, like the scale from like Grandmaster. But the thing is, you have to ask yourself is like, how many people were able to hit GM at 5 games? You're choosing to be good at a lot of games. You're just not choosing to be really truly great at any game, and that's fine. I think there's like a misconception that like, oh, there's something like I don't know, like admirable about being amazing at one thing as opposed to being good at a lot of things. I think being good at a lot of things, honestly, is probably a lot healthier, and probably it makes you a lot more of an interesting and like balanced person, frankly.
It's helping with perspective. Like literally playing, like I said, I never played basketball growing up, I never watched basketball growing up, but like concepts of basketball helped me with concept of Overwatch, and I think that's just hilarious.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason why like the whole concept of like the Renaissance man and being somebody that's like really well versed and has like a good perspective on life is like you need multiple perspectives to be good at stuff. Like I think that like a lot of the people that I've worked with that are very like one tricks, in terms of being really good at one thing, generally are like very incomplete human beings, if that makes sense. Like they have very like tunnel perspectives. They're very imbalanced. They're not also very happy. I don't think I wouldn't never describe them very wise. I think you need multiple perspectives to like understand things. And I think also multiple perspectives can help you to be a better teacher too, as well as just increasing your overall life satisfaction. At least that's the case for me.
I completely agree. I think being narrow-minded as a kid, I say as a kid, I was a teenager, but like, it just like it just limits your point of view, and you can see and understand so much more. You can understand more things from one thing by different perspectives.
I agree. I actually think like for a lot of people that's actually. This is where the real irony gets, is that the reason why a lot of people aren't great is because of that solo perspective. I think it depends on the thing. But like I look at some of the more successful people that I've worked with in like Overwatch and stuff like that, and a lot of those people like improve their ability to be great through balance. Like Hadi is a great example of, right, where like his fitness journey and like mental health journey and like leadership journey made him a significantly better Overwatch League player. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I know that's like an advantage that, at least for coaching, that was a big advantage for me, is that like a lot of my peers were like, they did not have the mixed martial arts, sports, leadership, communication experience that I had. And so that gave me an edge. Honestly, not only in terms of like my ability to like communicate and stuff, but also like straight up my ability to understand the game, I think was improved from just having a more holistic perspective.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Any other questions? Yeah, no worries.
Let's see. Anything else I forget to write down? I really think that's it, man. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, sure, man. Like you're welcome to message me. Obviously, if you got a clip, save it for a session. But if you ever have like any questions about coaching or just general gameplay stuff, you can always message me directly. Glad stuff is going well. Even stuff that your brother, like if your brother's got a question, just message me.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, of course.